When people talk about survival food, they often think of MREs, energy bars, or freeze-dried rations sealed in foil packets. But, long before militaries perfected modern field meals, ancient humans, those who lived through the brutal cold of the Ice Age, developed something far more durable, nutrient-packed and sustainable. It was a food that kept hunters alive through winters that lasted years, that powered migrations across frozen tundras, and that could last for decades without spoiling. This wasn't just food, it was a survival blueprint. Known to archaeologists and historians as pemmican, it's a lost Ice Age superfood that could outlast any modern ration pack. And surprisingly, it's something that anyone today, prepper, backpacker or historian, can still make and use. The harshness of the Ice Age forced humans to invent the most efficient survival food in history. During the last Ice Age, food scarcity was the defining threat. Temperatures dropped, vegetation died, and large animals migrated across frozen plains. The people who survived weren't just strong, they were resourceful. They discovered that simply drying meat wasn't enough. It needed concentrated nutrients, fats, and long-term preservation. The solution was pemmican, a perfect balance of protein, fat, and sometimes berries, designed not just for nourishment, but for endurance. While many associate pemmican with Native American cultures, its origins go back to prehistoric hunter-gatherers who used similar preservation methods to survive lean times. Later, during the North American fur trade, it became the fuel of explorers, trappers, and Arctic expeditions. A single pound of pemmican could sustain a man for days, providing over 3,000 calories of slow-burning energy. Unlike modern MREs, it required no cooking, no water, and almost no maintenance. The science behind its longevity is simple but brilliant. Dried lean meat provided dense protein. Rendered animal fat sealed out moisture and oxygen, creating a natural barrier against spoilage. When mixed and stored properly, this combination could remain edible for years, even decades, without refrigeration. In a world where cold and hunger ruled, pemmican wasn't just food. It was survival in its purest form. The key to pemmican's power lies in its perfect nutritional chemistry. Modern rations, for all their convenience, rely on processed ingredients, preservatives, and packaging. Pemmican, on the other hand, worked because it obeyed the laws of nature. It contained exactly what the human body needs: under stress protein to rebuild muscle, fat to fuel the brain and body, and trace minerals from the meat itself. The fat component, usually tallow rendered from bison, elk or deer, acted like a slow-release energy source, keeping metabolism stable even in extreme cold. Explorers like Sir Ernest Shackleton and Arctic frontiersmen in the 19th century used pemmican as their main ration precisely because nothing else matched its endurance. Unlike hardtack or salted meat, pemmican could be eaten raw, melted into a stew, or mixed with grains for variety. It didn't freeze into a brick or spoil in the heat. Some preserved samples found in old expedition caches were still edible over a century later. For anyone studying survival nutrition, this is a profound lesson. True endurance comes from simplicity. By balancing macronutrients in their most stable forms, the Ice Age diet achieved what modern science often tries to replicate with additives and technology. Making traditional pemmican is straightforward and still practical today. If you want to test this ancient formula for yourself, the process is remarkably simple, and it doesn't require any advanced equipment. Start with lean red meat, such as beef venison or bison. Slice it thin and dry it thoroughly, either in a dehydrator or over low heat, until it becomes brittle. The key is removing all moisture. Next, pound or grind the dried meat into a coarse powder. Render your fat separately. This means slowly melting it down to separate pure tallow from connective tissue. Once strained, allow it to cool slightly but not solidify. Mix the powdered meat with the liquid fat in a ratio of about 1:1 by weight. For flavour or additional nutrients, traditional makers sometimes added dried berries or a pinch of salt. Pour the mixture into moulds or containers and let it set. Once solid, it can be cut into blocks or balls for easy storage. That's it. Properly sealed and kept cool, real pemmican can last years, without refrigeration, without additives, and without losing its nutritional value. Some modern survivalists vacuum seal portions for long-term storage, but even wrapped in parchment or wax cloth, it remains durable. To apply this practically, you can make a small batch for hiking trips or emergency kits. Because it's so calorie-dense, a few ounces are enough to sustain long activity. Unlike protein bars, pemmican won't melt, spoil, or attract moisture. It's the same principle that allowed our ancestors to survive seasonal famine and icebound isolation. Pemmican became the backbone of exploration and military endurance. The fur traders of the Hudson's Bay Company depended on pemmican as their primary food for months-long journeys across the Canadian wilderness. The famous Pemmican Wars of the early 19th century, fought between rival trading companies, were literally about controlling the supply of this one resource. In the Arctic and Antarctic expeditions of the 19th and early 20th centuries, pemmican fueled explorers like Amundsen and Peary. Even British polar teams, though initially sceptical, came to rely on it after realizing that preserved military rations couldn't withstand the cold. When World War I erupted, the lessons learned from these expeditions influenced the design of Army field rations, compacting nutrition into portable high-energy forms that soldiers could carry into the trenches. So, in a real sense, every modern ration pack, protein bar and emergency meal traces its lineage back to the same ancient concept: the marriage of meat and fat perfected during the Ice Age. This ancient superfood still holds lessons for modern survivalists. In today's world of convenience and packaging, the simplicity of pemmican feels almost, revolutionary. It requires no electricity, minimal equipment, and ingredients anyone can source locally. For the serious survivalist or historian, it demonstrates that technology isn't always progress. Sometimes the best answers are the oldest ones. If you ever find yourself preparing for long-term storage, travel, or disaster readiness, consider adding pemmican to your strategy. It's not just a curiosity from the past. It's a time-tested survival solution that continues to outperform much of what modern industry produces. It's lightweight, enduring, and nutritionally balanced. The perfect food for anyone serious about long-term resilience. Even for those who aren't prepping for survival, making pemmican connects you directly with thousands of years of human ingenuity. It's the same formula that kept Ice Age hunters alive in -40-degree winters and Arctic explorers on their feet when every other ration froze solid. That's not nostalgia. That's proven design. The legacy of pemmican proves that ancient knowledge never expires. Every time we tear open a field ration or unwrap a protein bar, we're echoing a discovery made by humans who refused to die in the cold. The Ice Age superfood wasn't a product of convenience. It was a triumph of necessity, skill, and understanding of nature's limits. So, the next time you think about what true endurance means, remember the simple mix of meat and fat that helped humanity outlast an ice-covered world. It's more than food. It's the blueprint for survival itself. If you found this exploration into ancient endurance food valuable, subscribe to Echoes of Valor for more deep dives into the survival secrets, forgotten technologies, and human resilience that shaped our history. And share this episode with a fellow history enthusiast, because the wisdom that kept our ancestors alive still deserves a place at our table today.